And Alfred Cannan, MHK. Can you please ask the Minister, says David, what are his thoughts on the Isle of Man bank closures? Are they pulling out of the island? The current branches are absolutely full, a nightmare with long queues and automated machines, such as in Regent Street, which are never working. It's a nightmare. We're still banking with, the government still banks with Isle of Man Bank, doesn't it?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and look, like everybody else, I'm very disappointed with the branch closures that have been happening. There are clearly issues that we're trying to resolve at the moment. I mean, I think particularly Peel, which has been left effectively without banking facilities and needs to be, resolution needs to be found. I think that, the long-term future for the Isle of Man Bank at the moment is something that we are concerned about.
Did you see this coming?
I think with digitalisation, there's always a risk that you are going to see some contraction in terms of these offices, because more and more people are banking online, and it's the same with the post office.
But the fact that they took the business to Jersey, I mean, company number 001, company number 1 is now effectively headquartered in St Helier.
And very disappointing. I mean, it is very disappointing. I think, to have that name now effectively not present on the island in the way that you've just described is a matter of concern. I think that the Isle of Man Bank should be Manx and should remain Manx, and that the owners of the Isle of Man Bank, whoever they may be, should treat it with respect and recognise its heritage. But there are certain things that the government can control and certain things that it can't control or chooses not to. We are broadly well served with the number of banks on the island. There is always opportunities to replace a void left by a decision like this. I'm hopeful, actually, that we will hear in the near future that somebody might step into the breach in terms of offering a service of sorts. But nevertheless, it is what is a matter for the government is ensuring that our businesses and our people can have some sort of access to finance facilities, to banking facilities, and in the regions they've got it in Douglas, and I know the queues. And people tell me all the time, and I've been to the bank myself this morning. I have to say, which wasn't overly busy, but I've been in there many times when these counters are packed, and a lot of people still using cash and needing cash transactions. And we're going to, I think Tynwald's voted last week to look at the Chief Minister's community report. I think that part of that community report will be a focus on people's access to finance and some sort of financial servicing in their community, or at least close by.
Talking of the Chief Minister, this motion, this potential bill that's going through to call a motion of no confidence in the Chief Minister and have it get through with a simple majority. It's gone through the second and third readings, now going to LegCo. You opposed that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I think the although there hasn't been a call for the removal of a Chief Minister.
It's to establish the mechanism, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in fact, Andy, I brought forward the initial reform in 2016 to have the House of Keys only vote on the election of the Chief Minister. And in bringing that forward, I actually changed the voting procedures from Tynwald, which was a straight majority, to a requirement to have at least 16 votes out of the 24 in the House of Keys. And the reason why I did that at the time was that I thought that if it was a very close election and a Chief Minister, say, got in by 13 votes to 11, come into some difficult, choppy water, perhaps trying to take some serious reform through, which isn't always that easy. It needed to be a decision. If the House of Keys decided to remove basically the Council of Ministers, they needed to take a great deal of consideration there, and I thought that 2/3 majority would be appropriate in those circumstances. Clearly, the new intake has thought differently, and so there we go. It's now a straightforward majority. But I think that does carry some element of risk. But never mind, we will see whenever the House of Keys now chooses to remove a Council of Ministers in the future, or possibly in the near future. Who knows?
Stephen, you're live with Alfred Cannan.
Good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, Andy. Good afternoon, listeners. I was pleased to hear the Minister speak about the projects. And there's one example in the West that he may be familiar with. And I just wanted to ask him, is this an example of people who are spending other people's money and not taking care of their decisions properly? And I refer to the purchase of Glen Faber House near Peel to make a sewage treatment plant. And the reasons why it's been refused by planning are very sensible. And really, did we need the planning to tell us this? It's an area of high scenic value. It has habitat value, and the access to it is difficult. Now, surely those things, do we really need another committee, another separate organisation for people to look at these things in the first place? I just find words unable to describe the frustration I feel that we all can see with this site. And yet, is this an example of government thinking they can get away with it over these areas that they purchase?
Stephen, as always, things aren't always that straightforward. So this was the Manx Utilities Authority's planning as part of their strategic sewerage rollout, and at some point, obviously, they've made the decision to purchase that property, and you'll understand that I'm not necessarily completely au fait with all the details behind that decision and the technicalities that go with it. I think, I don't think you can just take a blanket view of absolutely everything. I think this is probably a slightly different project view that I would take. I mean, they were planning to get the project done. Why moving ahead with the purchase before they'd actually got the planning permission is probably the question that we need to answer. Doubtless the MUA will have a reason for that, but I can't really comment, Stephen, because I'm not that au fait with the actual specifics of why that particular decision was taken. But broadly speaking, this government, the Isle of Man government, spends about 60 to 70 million pounds a year on capital infrastructure projects, and when you get expenditure items, whether it's in the west or the north, south, or even in across the water at the moment with the Liverpool landing stage, then this becomes a concern. And I think when you've got a record that extends back many years of projects overspending or failing to be completed on time, then you need to ask questions about whether the governance structure around it is correct. And actually, no one wants to create anything new, and I don't see this as being a big new department. I just see this as being a board structure that will, with experience and expertise, to give us much more confidence, and because it'll be slightly independent from the departments, or it will be independent from the departments, I believe that we will have more trust and confidence that the project is being conducted professionally and with that element of independence.
Okay, Stephen, thanks for your call, Stephen. We're almost out of time at the moment. In about a minute, could you give us 60 seconds on fishing and farming post-Brexit?
Well, again, Andy, I mean, I just don't know where these negotiations are going to end up and what the implications are going to be. I don't think it's going to be easy in either scenario, but clearly a no deal is going to have bigger implications for our for fishing and our farming industry, which isn't always the smoothest of rides. But I think we still, irrespective of that, I mean, broadly speaking, look, the island should be confident about the future. And if things go wrong, as they have done over this last year, or we're faced with crisis, we are in a good position to react at the moment. And we're going to carry on both reacting if the situation develops with Brexit or COVID, but more importantly, being proactive to make sure that we're investing in the right areas and supporting the right people for the future.
Thanks for being with us today.
That's a pleasure,
Good
Andy.
to talk to you.
And
Alfred,
a happy Christmas to you and your listeners.
Bless you, thank you. Alfred Cannan, MHK, Treasury Minister today. You can check that out as a podcast and watch the video as well. And live tomorrow, David Ashford, MHK, Health and Social Care, will be live on the Mannin Line. Thank you to studio producer Barry Redfern today. The Mannin Line is back tomorrow, 12 midday. Have a good day.